everybody, I am so excited for our second workshop. We are here to talk about when is the right time to pursue a graduate degree. I mean, you are all professionals in your careers. You are all potentially thinking about it or are already in a graduate degree, or maybe you're considering pursuing an additional graduate degree if you've already got one. This is an extremely pertinent and relevant topic for anybody who's thought about more education. This workshop is for you. I'm really excited for you to experience our guest speaker this evening. It's going to be really insightful, very data-driven. It's going to have a lot of facts and figures that will hopefully help you make the most educated decision about what makes the most sense for you. By the way, my name is Garrett Mintz. I'm the founder of Ambition in Motion. And really, you've already started meeting with your mentor. That is awesome. Hopefully, you've already set up your first meeting. Maybe you've even already set up your second meeting. If that's the case, that's amazing news. But the focus for this workshop is how can you be intentional about really taking steps forward for yourself professionally. Now, I know that these workshops are on a wide array of topics. Obviously, our first workshop was on how to transition into a managerial role. This workshop's about determining whether or not it's worth it to pursue a graduate degree. But I really want to challenge you that when you're in your mentor meetings, that you are customizing it to your experience for what you want to accomplish with your own career. Because I recognize that some of these workshops are more relevant to you than others, and that's, by the way, completely okay. We bring in really amazing world-class guest speakers to come in and be our guests for these workshops, and that's fantastic. And the ideal goal is that all of them are relevant to you, but I recognize that it varies. And some workshops are going to be more relevant to some people than other people. But what I want you to recognize is that even in this workshop, even if you feel like it's not the most relevant to you, that there's a lot of nuggets. There's a lot of topics that we talk about with our guest speaker that I believe can apply to a lot of situations that you may face in your life. So I'm really excited to get started. Now, one thing that I really want to focus in on, and this is something we talked about last time in our workshop, and that is understanding your strategy, your story, and your state. Those are the three keys to being successful in this program. The most important one, that being state. So physically, where are you? What is going on in your world? Are you having a bad day? Are you having a stressful day? Are you having a difficult time with your significant other? Did your dog just die? I don't care what is going on with your world, no matter how stressful, no matter how mad, no matter how angry, no matter how bad anything is going on in your world, you can change your state in a matter of seconds because your emotions drive your emotions. So what I want you to do right now to get yourself ready for this workshop is I want you to stand up and I want you to shake it out. I want you to shimmy it loose. I want you to scream at the top of your lungs. Just go, yeah! Just let it loose, let it out, let it go. Because what you're doing is you're letting blood flow to your brain. You're releasing endorphins in your brain. You're getting yourself into a state conducive for receiving information. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, when you sit down for too long, you have diminishing returns on your mental investment. Your likelihood of retaining that information is significantly minimized. So I want to challenge you to get up, shake it out, let it loose, get your blood flowing, because when your blood's flowing to your brain, your likelihood of actually remembering this information is significantly higher. Now, when you're going into your mentor relationship, when you're meeting with your mentor, if you can get your blood flowing before those mentor meetings, you're much more likely to retain the information your mentor has to say for you and to you. But if you don't get yourself into a state ready for this mentor relationship, your likelihood of making the most out of that experience diminishes. So I want you to get yourself into a state. Now, the next key is your story. What is the story you tell yourself? Why will you be successful? I'd love to know it. In fact, actually, if you could, post in the comment section, why are you going to be successful? I mean, if in your mind you think, hey, I'm cool with mediocre, I'm cool with just settling, this program is not for you. I can tell you that right now. If you're thinking to yourself, hey, I want to settle, I just want to kind of like not really aspire for too much, you wouldn't be in this mentor program. So what I'm here to tell you is shoot for the stars. Have big, crazy, hairy, audacious goals. And by the way, don't let anybody else judge you for your goal because your goals are your own. So what is audacious to you may not be audacious to somebody else, and what is audacious to somebody else may not be audacious to you, but that is okay. It's not for you to judge. It is for you to make strides for yourself, because at the end of the day, this program is about personal growth and confidence, helping you put yourself into the best position for you to succeed. So if you can tell yourself a story for why you will be marginally to exemplary, significantly better than where you're at the beginning of this program, that is awesome, and that is where I want you to go. That's where I want you to be. Now, the last part is your strategy. What is the strategy that you're going to do to start putting yourself in the best position to succeed? Now, this program, this workshop specifically, is about when is the right time to pursue a graduate degree. Now, one thing that I strongly encourage you to do, because here's the thing, at the end of the day, your strategies are all about routines. We think about routines both in the bad sense as well as the good sense. Bad routines are, things that we consider habits, bad habits, they're bad. But we typically have a negative connotation around habits just because of so many bad habits we've heard about. But there's a lot of things and a lot of beneficial things with good habits. So what are things that you can do on a daily, regular basis that helps you prepare for anything that you want to be better at? That is what I want to focus on. So one strategy that you can implement is implementing a SWOT analysis on a monthly basis of your life, of your career, of your higher education experience, of anything. Doing a SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. So if you're currently right now in a job and you're thinking to yourself, I'm contemplating a graduate degree, but I don't really know right now, what you'll want to think about is, what are the strengths of pursuing a graduate degree? What are the weaknesses of pursuing a graduate degree? What are the opportunities of staying in your current role? And what are the threats to leaving your current role for this graduate degree? If you can lay this out for yourself, it will help you on a substantial level towards making the most educated decision for yourself for why you should or should not pursue a graduate degree. Now, our guest speaker this evening is going to talk about the literal specific facts and figures of financially, when does it make sense for you to get a graduate degree, and when does it not make sense for you to get a graduate degree? And so I think you're going to really enjoy what our guest speaker has to say about this, because the insight is unbelievable. I think you're going to really enjoy it. But in terms of the strategies, I want you to do a SWOT analysis to help you prepare for that. The other thing is, I want you to start having more informational interviews beyond just your mentor. I don't care how old you are. I don't care what stage of life you are in. You can have conversations with people. Just because you're not a quote unquote current college student in a collegiate sense, you're still a student of life. You're still a student of professional outcomes. And by being willing to admit that you're still a student, you can take the knowledge of somebody else. You can say, hey, I'm a student. I'm interested in learning more about XYZ field. Would you be willing to have a coffee with me or a conversation with me? That is a great conversation starter for you to learn more about other fields, because at the end of the day, it's not about stagnating. It is about growing. It is about learning. It is about being uncomfortable and being comfortable with being uncomfortable. So those are the key points I really want you to take away from our workshop this evening. I'm so excited to jump into our guest speaker. By the way, if you've not connected with me on LinkedIn yet, please do so. We have a LinkedIn community, a Ambition in Motion group where all of us participate in it. We can post our questions. Our entire community can answer them or see them or relate to them. It's a really cool place to be. If you don't have a LinkedIn, absolutely get a LinkedIn. If you do have a LinkedIn and you have not connected with me, I strongly encourage it. I'm so excited to get started, and I'm so excited for you to experience our guest speaker this evening. Thanks for your time. I'm looking forward to get this guest interview going.
All righty, welcome everybody to the interview portion of our workshop this evening. I'm so excited to dive in. Our topic is how to determine when is the right time to pursue additional education. I know that a lot of y'all are probably thinking to yourself, okay, I'm in my career, things are going well. Should I go off and get my MBA? Should I go get a different type of master's degree? Should I maybe go get a doctorate? What is the right next step for me in my additional education path? Will my employer cover it? Should I expect to be compensated higher or more greatly because of me getting this additional education? This and many more will be covered in our workshop this evening. We've got a great guest with us here tonight. We've got Lauren Jones. Lauren, do you mind just giving us a brief introduction overview of who you are and your background?
Sure. Thank you, Garrett, for having me. I'm Dr. Lauren Jones. I am currently an assistant dean of BSN programs for South University, and I have been in nursing and business administrative leadership positions for over 30 years, and have been down this decision-making tree of what do I do next, and where is my career taking me, and what do I need to have in my portfolio to get there. So hopefully I can help your audience today.
Absolutely. So Lauren, maybe just if you could kick us off, what was your career trajectory like? Like, how did you get to where you're at today? Like, what are some of the educational degrees that you pursue? Why did you pursue those degrees? And then when you've taken on additional degree paths, why did you pursue that? What was the main motivating driver? I'd love to get a little more context.
Great question. I think I have a very interesting background as far as my education and career. I started in nursing back in 1990. And I actually was trying to get into nursing school. Health professions was in my family. And when I looked at getting into an associate degree program, there was a wait. So I didn't want to wait. I wanted to get in the field. So they had a year program, which is called a practical nursing program. And so I was like, if I can get into that, let's go. And then I'll transition. It was the same institution, and I'll get my registered nurse, and it will make me a better nurse because I will, understand that type of nurse and then continue to move forward. So that's what I did.
Can I ask one real quick clarifying question? That surprises me that there was a wait to get into nursing school. From my understanding, and I don't know if this has always been the case, but from my understanding, nurses are one of the hardest and most sought after, like everybody's looking to hire. Like it's like, oh my gosh, you're a nurse, job offer in hand, don't even need to interview. I mean, silly and facetious, but it's certainly from my take, it seems like everybody's looking for nurses these days. It's like almost impossible to find nurses. I feel like if I talk to anybody who I've spoken with in healthcare that hires nurses, I don't think any of them are fully staffed in terms of their nursing capacity. They're always looking for more nurses. What was going on where there was just a wait to get into a nursing program?
So a lot of things dictate the capacity of nursing schools to accept students. So it could be the Board of Nursing, it could be your status with the Board of Nursing. So back in, I'm kind of dating myself, but back in that time, schools had 30 seats and they had a program once a year. It's changed now. There's a lot more schools in nursing providing that offering, but there's still a huge shortage of nurses because there's a shortage in nurse educators. And I'm glad we kind of touched on this because that's a driver into my DBA program that I've recently started. So that'll give you some background. But yeah, even now when in my school, we've opened, a new nursing program last year in Georgia. And there are requirements from the State Board of Nursing of how many students you can have, depending on, your first year, your NCLEX results, things of that nature. And then also the biggest factor is where are the nurse educators coming from? So that also impacts how many students institution can, take on. Because if you don't have staffing, you can't do the training. Right now, it's desperate for both nurse educators and bedside nurses. The pandemic, it is projected, I think, for us to be at a shortage in the profession of nurses at 5.2 million by 2030. And that's scary with healthcare. So there's different factors. So so what I did was I was like, okay, they have a different program at the time. I didn't really know what the PN was, but I read about it and I was on my way to getting that. And then that led into getting into a very well-known, respected hospital where I lived. And when you talk about, how do you make the decision to then continue and the financial costs and things like that? One of the things I think is critical when you're accepting a position is to ask, do you have education benefits? What are your requirements? Do you have to be there a year? Is it 90 days? It just is different among employers and what their needs are. Some of the careers that you want to advance toward also requires advanced degrees. What happened in my case is I was working in a hospital after getting, my nursing degree and license. And I started noticing that the hospital was making some just basic changes. But in my opinion, I was like, is this going to impact care? And so that was really my, how I got into business school, because I was like, I need to understand why my company is making certain decisions. Why are we now so worried about scanning every little item that we use on patients? And so I went to business school. I got my undergraduate at Stetson University. And it really has helped me not only understand that healthcare, education, every industry has a fundamental business, foundation. It's a business. You have to staff it. You have to have finances for it. You need to have managers and leaders for it. And so that was my, when I finished at Stetson, my career opened to leadership in healthcare. And my first leadership role was a director of admissions and marketing. And so immediately they were interested in.
So I can just ask one quick clarifying question.
Sure.
Why did you pursue a bachelor's degree instead of an MBA? Because you had already had your degree in nursing. I would imagine both could have been an option for you. What made you choose bachelor's over MBA?
So I had not gotten my BSN in nursing yet. So because this was more fundamental for me to be a better business person and just understand the business decisions that my organization was making, you needed to get your undergrad in business before you went toward your MBA. So that's the difference. And back then there were not a lot of what you see now in healthcare, recognizing that nursing leadership positions need some business background, and they'll have these BSNs to MBA or an RN to, there's all this different mix now. When I was coming up early in my career, it was very fundamental programs. And so, and I had always wanted to go to Stetson. I graduated high school in Florida, and Stetson was just known for their quality education, law programs, things like that. So after I got through with Stetson, immediately got an opportunity to take this position in a director position for marketing and admissions for a rehab center. But they were interested in me in the role because I was a nurse, but I also had business. So I understood what, acuity was and patient ratios, and, they needed to make sure their beds were filled and what was the impact to staffing decisions. So it was kind of the perfect individual that they were looking for. But for me, it was a way, now I can get into leadership and and really have a voice at the table.
Were you immediately what was that recruitment process like? Was it kind of like you just got your degree from Stetson, you walk out the door and there's like 50 people like, we'll hire you. I mean, I'm being facetious, but what was that process like? It seemed like it was pretty easy, and it seemed like it was pretty immediate, as if people were clamoring to bring you in-house once you graduated. What was that process like for you?
So again, kind of back in, not as a main digital aspect of it, but most of my career opportunities have come from headhunters looking to fill a specific, position with specific criteria. And I started bridging the gap between that, patient care experience to the business experience and requirements. And so as I progressed in my education, I was, you update your resume and all of a sudden all these doors of opportunities would open. And so I did that for a while, and then I got into different aspects of leadership and management roles. And what will probably throw you for a loop is I then started, I became a Mary Kay consultant, and in the middle of getting married and all of these things. But the reason I became that because I believed in the product. And I always feel like in sales and things like that, if you believe in the product, you don't really sell it. You just, your testimonial to it will sell it. And I was able to stop my full-time job and was making enough money so I could go back and finish my MBA. So this is where eMBAs and the virtual really started to impact me, is I decided that my career at the time was calling for really more business education, leadership. I was running a call center that we placed nurses all over the country 24/7. And I had an opportunity, and I started at Nova Southeastern and their weekend program, because I was like, there's no way I could go during the week. And then it got to be very challenging on the weekend, and they started a eMBA program. First time ever.
What does the E stand for?
Electronic, basically, because it was new. This was back in 2001 and 2002, because I graduated in May of 2003. That was the best experience I have ever had in education. A lot of times people think that they're being self-taught, but I think with the with that flexibility, and you're still working in teams, you still have accountability, but the flexibility allowed me to continue to work. And what happened during that period of time, as I was doing my Mary Kay full time, I had a team of 26 women, had won a car in 8 months. I love that about business, but I think what also made me successful was I had the nurse part of me that had the relationships and had that care toward humans. And it wasn't always about a sale or a transaction. So once I completed my MBA, literally got a call from Kaplan University, who just had at that time a bachelor's in criminal justice and then some certificate programs. So of course I started off there. I was the only director of admissions with a master's level. And then with my nursing, their long-term goals from a institution was to have a nursing program at some point in time. And so that was another recruitment. As soon as I got my MBA and got it out in the market, I was getting calls. Hey, we have this position. This would be perfect for you. We ultimately want to do a nursing program. We're going to need the business side. So that opened up a whole nother avenue of, now I have healthcare as an experience, and now I have education, and primarily online education. And because I had been through an EMBA program, it was perfect because I could talk to students. I had that real life experience of going through it as a working adult. And so did, love that aspect, and was just waiting for the nursing program to continue. I stayed with them and actually transferred up to, this was in Florida, transferred up to Illinois and started up their center there with admissions advisors and associates. And my husband had transferred as well. And so started that there. And then, as things progressed, this was in the city, we were living out in the suburbs. I had transitioned to another educational institution, and they didn't have a nursing program. Again, they were still looking to get a nursing program. So of course, having an MBA and being a nurse was a benefit to them. And what was interesting is their nursing program was not launching exactly when it was supposed to. And for my career, I was like, the admission side of the house was not where I wanted to leave my bags and unpack. I wanted to venture out and get and grow, because I was growing in my career with positions and things like that very quickly. It seemed like every time I did advance my education, another opportunity opened. And this opportunity, that when I left I didn't leave the education sector, but this will kind of surprise you. I went into the school bus industry, and people are like, "You're a nurse," and I'm like, "Yes," but I ran a call center, and I was hired to run their charter call center. And so it was a step into a very interesting 4 years. Worked with the Batman movies, putting our school buses into those scenes up in Chicago. If you've ever seen it, you would see that. But then I had an opportunity to go back with Kaplan, and my husband got transferred back to Florida. So then I was in remote world of working remote, traveling a lot. And so then I made the decision that it was time to, because of my role with Kaplan, it was business development. It was time to look at the next step of getting my master's in nursing. And so I didn't do it right away. And what happened was
Did Kaplan ask you to get your master's in nursing? Or how did you
they,
determine that?
yeah, so it was not a necessary requirement for the job, but I had learned being in education whenever I got to like in my retirement years, I guess you could say, I wanted to be able to teach and I wanted to teach online. And because I had the great experience with my instructors with that EMBA, loved it. And I wanted to give back. So I'm like, I have my MBA. I need my MSN because in nursing education, if you're going to teach even in the classroom or online, you have to have that basic MSN to get started. And so I actually followed my boss at the time with Kaplan, took a dean position with American Sentinel. And when I was thinking about, there was so many schools, so many programs, I went to her and they evaluated my transcripts and they gave me a lot of transfer credit for my MBA. And so I was able to get my master's in 8 months, an MSN in 8 months. And so that was a huge decision maker for me because I was paying for it. It wasn't through my institution or anything like that.
So have you ever had a scenario where your employer paid for your education?
Yeah, so that is what I'm getting to. For after my MSN, I became a dean at a college and then ultimately had my sights on getting involved with Chamberlain University. And I was able to get into Chamberlain. And 6 months after that, started my doctorate in nursing practice, and they paid for that. That was a benefit. And that's one thing that I would tell anyone listening to this today is when you are taking a position and you should have your short and long-term goals, both professionally, educationally, and personally. Look at what your benefits are. And so the benefit at the time, I'm not sure if it's the same now, but the benefit at the time was they were paying for my DNP. So I was like, I needed to be in my job and in good standing in 6 months. And in 6 months, I started it, and it was a 2-year program, and I completed it in 2 years. And that was a huge opportunity because those degrees are not inexpensive, as you probably are aware. And many programs nowadays are not, cheap at all. It's an investment in yourself. And that's what I tell people. If you're paying for your education, it's an investment in yourself. But if you're also giving of your time, whether you're paying for it or not, it's an investment in yourself. So the DNP opened a lot of doors for me in my career at Chamberlain. It advanced over to faculty development and was their continuing education provider. And that was, and you needed that doctorate degree to really move forward with some of those career opportunities.
Well, Lauren, I want to pause for just a second. You bring up such a good point about advocating for yourself and just asking the question like, hey, what are you running? Like, the audience, the students watching this don't know this, but you're also part of our executive mastermind groups. And, one thing that you can ask your employer is, hey, what leadership development, what educational development, what kind of educational opportunities do you cover or provide for your employees? So I just love to take a moment to ask those that are watching this right now, have you ever asked your employer what kind of educational opportunities does your company offer? If so, what did you learn? And if not, what would you like to do? And what would you like to learn? What would you hope that your employer would provide in terms of additional educational compensation? I guess maybe, Lauren, a question I have for you is, who's the right person to ask for this? I feel like sometimes your direct boss may not be the right person to ask because they may not be at all aware of what's going on. I think there's so many benefits and opportunities that companies provide, but because maybe they're not well communicated or they're not well known, what ends up happening is it almost becomes this culture of like, our company doesn't cover those sorts of things. So if you want to do it, you got to do it on your own. But who is there a person in an organization that would be the right person to chat with about these sorts of questions?
Well, I can give you a personal experience, which got me into the mastermind. Last year, I went through my review with my dean, who's my direct manager, and our provost. And we talked about leadership and where I wanted to go. And I'm like, I want to be promoted. I love what I'm doing. I help oversee 10 campus-based programs in 7 states. And I want to move to the associate level. And what do I need to do? And that's what is a big question. Oftentimes we don't ask, what do I need to do? Or sometimes we might feel afraid if we say, hey, we want to grow. People might say, oh, we're going to stifle you because you might take over my job. And this is not a job currently. This is not a role in the organization. So when we spoke about it, it was like, what do I need to do? And yes, I have MBAs, I've had leadership positions, but advancing the leadership skills was one thing that the provost had recommended. And so we talked about attending conferences, specific leadership conferences. The NLN has a leads program, and there's different things we just kind of tossed out there. And what we also didn't mention is because of my MBA is how I got into your Ambition Emotions program as a mentor years ago. And so I'm looking at all of these things because I'm like, I have my sight set on this promotion. This is what I want. It's in my development plan. And when you reached out about this program, I'm like, this checks off all the boxes for advancing in leadership. I mean, the horizontal mentoring, the executive mentoring, the group activities it's been 1 month and I've already started to, implement some of these key things with my team. And so, and we were working on just a few days. And so I reached out to my boss and I said, look, this is something I really would like to do. This is in the plan that we talked about with the provost. And within a few days, I know it was starting. And so I got the green light, and it was like the day before, I think I got the green light. And so I just kept, just pushing to say, hey, this is the right fit. Like, I can go to conferences. I go to conferences all the day, but this is actually valuable information that I'm learning that I can now build my own bench strength. And I'm talking to my program directors who look at me and say, I want to advance. Where's my next role? And so is there one currently? No, but as we grow as an organization, things come up, positions come up, talent is needed. And so I asked those questions. And also, I started at the beginning of this year, I wanted my program directors to not just be giving, because these are all doctorally prepared nurses and they run the programs at the campus level. And I said, we need to give back something to yourselves as a leader and things like that. So I have meetings biweekly, and we do the Dare to Lead. And I work with them on being vulnerable and, asking for stuff. And it's so interesting now because now they're starting to really feel comfortable saying, I've been in this role, I want to advance. And and I tell them, it's okay if you say you want my position, because I've always said, in order for me to move on, I need somebody to step in for me. And so I start to see those that are wanting that shift. And so it's been really rewarding, but my organization did pay for the program. And that actually opened up another decision-making for myself. I was like, you know what? I need to see what the benefits are for education here. And found out that there DBA program is completely paid. And I'm like, I'm ready to sign up for that. I'm in this, masterminds group. And now I started the DBA.
HR? Was that the person you went to figure out like that was a benefit? Was that through human resources?
Through human resources, because you apply for what is a tuition assistance program, their TAP program. And so you need to make sure that, you're in good standings. It's also in our faculty supplement, our employee handbook, and it, tells of the benefits and things like that. And I'm like, yes, my DNP was paid for by Chamberlain, but they don't always stay that way. So I'm like, I'm getting in right now, and it's the best time. I got 16 credits transferred in. So I only have 56 to go. And so I should be finished with the program by less than 2 years. And so it's critical to ask those questions. And a lot of times when you're coming into the organization, you're getting so much information, and they'll say, oh yeah, you get tuition reimbursement, or you get this, or you get that. Well, when you're in an education institution, sometimes things are provided at full cost, or it's a partial. It just depends. If they have sister organizations that maybe are in a different field, you want to ask all those questions. And what I say is, after your 90 days, go back and really review what your benefits are, because we get overwhelmed and we forget, right? It's like we pay for all these services and then we really don't know what it means. And if we just have to take a step back and say, hey, what are my benefits and how can I achieve it? And then look at what is the overall goal. So my overall goal is education. And I never see myself as retiring. But I do see myself being mobile in my retirement years, but also still being a educator. I'm a lifelong learner. I love the virtual world, and both of my degrees will allow me to continue to teach. And I know educators in our fields are short. I mean, we have a shortage in nursing. Just education in its whole, especially after the pandemic, is suffering. So I want to give back through education, and I need to prepare myself. So after getting into the mastermind group and working with my coach, I'm like, I got to lay out all of this and I need to move forward now. And so I started May 28th. So it's been a big year.
That's so exciting. That's so cool. I'd love to take a moment to ask the audience a question. Have you ever asked your boss or advocated for yourself in an employment scenario to ask for additional educational opportunities? If so, how did it go? Post in the comment section. If you've not, what's holding you back from asking for those details? Post in the comment section. I'd love to learn more. So, Lauren, you've talked a lot about the benefits of getting additional education. It seems like every time that you pursued additional degrees, like immediately you were snapped up and hired and promoted. So it seems like overall a positive thing, but I want to represent the other side of the coin too. What are things that we need to be aware about before committing to an additional education, especially if we're paying out of our own pocket for said degree? I think I've seen some interesting stories where there will be people that don't tell their employer they're going to get an MBA or getting additional education. And then all of a sudden they get that degree and they're like, I did it, huzzah. And they come back to their employer and they're like, ta-da, here's my MBA, where's my promotion? And they're like, I had no idea you were getting your MBA. I think it's amazing, but we don't have a promotion ready for you. You never communicated this to us. And then they're sullen and they're like, oh, well, what did I get this for? So what are some things that, if you're contemplating getting that additional degree, what are some things that you really need to be aware of, both financially, time-wise, like employment-wise? Like, what are the things that you should be really thinking about when it comes to that degree? And I also, on another note, can you distinguish, at least for the audience, like the cost, like the benefit of certain types of degrees? I mean, I know that you've gotten, let's say, an MBA, but an MBA from, let's say, one university could be far more expensive than an MBA from another university. is there a ramification or implications from getting your MBA from one university or another? Like, it's just, how do you distinguish that? I never really understood why some universities' experiences were far more expensive, like into the tune of sometimes 3, 5, even 10x more expensive than another institution's, program that, you still have the same 3 letters, MBA or whatever. Like, how do you go about distinguishing the value for the cost? Does that question make sense?
I think it makes perfect sense. So, again, kind of telling my age, back in the day when I got my MBA, that was a thing. It used to say on job descriptions, or, when they were posting, on Career Builder, when we finally got to that point, a bachelor's preferred. Now you see a master's preferred, or even in some positions, a doctorate preferred. And why is that? Well, we kind of know when the economy's challenged or we're having tough times, we lean on education because the more we can make ourselves marketable, right? So to have the different degrees or mix of degrees. And that's why I was saying, like, healthcare, sometimes people say, oh, well, you treat this like a business. Well, if you're not operating in the green, these institutions or any kind of institution is not going to be there too long, right? And so when you have that, you look at, one, how you're pairing your degrees. And I would say that if you're looking internally, it's very important for you to have those crucial conversations either during your performance review or one-on-ones that you have. And many times I think when we get the courage to ask, and the first time we're told, well, there's nothing available right now. Okay, then we put it to the side and we don't continue to ask. And I'm not saying like every week, but also you are in your own control. You can go out to the company website and look at the jobs that are available. I found that perusing job boards and things like that, LinkedIn, when you're looking at job descriptions, that's a great thing to really say, okay, what do I need? What is it asking for?
That is like, I'm having a revelation right now because I think that's such a great idea. That's something that I don't know of anybody who does that, but how often do we see scenarios where you've been hired at a place, you've been there for a few years, and then all of a sudden, they're bringing on more people to be peers of yours, people to do the exact same type of work that you're doing.
And probably making more money.
And you got it. That's exactly it. And then you have no idea. And then eventually you come to find out that they're making, maybe 25%, 30% more than what you're making. You're like, what the heck is going on here? What am I getting tarnished for my loyalty? Or like now they're offering an educational benefit or perk that I never was offered.
Right.
That is a really good idea. Gosh, if you're watching this, I don't care how long you've been at whatever job you're at, if you know your company is hiring, you should absolutely look at that job posting and be aware of it regularly, because that is like a mind blowing, but such a simple solution to like not only pay equity and fairness, educational equity and fairness. It's just I'm having a revelation because I think that would help out so many people, because it's nothing's more irritating than finding out someone who's not as good as your job, who's fresh faced, just got there, not really, figuring it out, is getting paid substantially more than what you're getting paid, and you've been there for a long time.
One of the things that I will provide advice on is that sometimes the title is not where all the money lies. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I have been in those positions, and all of a sudden you're looking at an email that just came out announcing somebody that just became vice president or an executive director or something like that. I have been fortunate in my career where when I moved up, I told you when I moved up and was transferred, I did get a promotion and was the first in that category. But if I go back and look at those institutions now, there's many of those, right? And so it's very important when you're making a decision, whether it be career and how, the education that you need to get there, is that you're making it because it's going to fulfill you in more ways than just the pocketbook. I've taken positions because of money, and probably the worst decisions I made. So one of the things that I did, when you talk about what do you need, education, experience, is when I look at a position, I look at it, I print it out, and I go through all the requirements. And I look back on my resume, and I'm like, I've done that. 80% of my resume is this, 10% is that. Okay, I need to either do some continuing education, or is that because I don't have the degree and I just need that core foundation of knowledge? But now I'm sure everyone that's listening to this, when you're on LinkedIn and constant headhunters every day, I have the position here. Do you want to move here? We're paying this and this. And it can become overwhelming. And when you have like a mix, so like healthcare and business, or any other, you'll see doctors going back to get their MBAs. You see attorneys getting their MBAs because it just gives you that core foundation of business sense, right? You have that where you're not so passionate about, well, oh my goodness, you changed the brand of, IV fluid solution to this one. Oh, you don't care about our patients. No, there's a reason. There's an economies of scale there that you've got to be able to pay your bills and make sure everybody's getting their paycheck, but you understand the why behind it, right? And so when you are looking for different jobs, especially within your organization, it's also good to go back and look at the strategic goals. What is the organization's 5-year plan, and what do they need to get there? Because then you start networking. It's not about networking outside of your organization only, but inside your organization. When networking and then asking for stretch assignments. People want to see that you can do that next job. What is that next job? Sometimes we don't know, right? You're creating it as you go, and then you're taking on more responsibility. And then that also will determine your decision on going back and getting more education if that's what you need. Maybe it's a certification in a specialized area. There's so many different jobs, there's so many different opportunities, but I just tell people, and how do I stay relevant? I do the same thing. I'm looking at what is the requirements? What are they looking for? Can you send me the job description? And a lot of the roles that I'm approached with are the role that I'm looking to get to, and I'm checking off the boxes. Do I have all of these? So it's in this is when I plan to be promoted. Like, I'm very much a planner. Now, it may not go off to that date, but everyone's aware. Make people aware, but sometimes we're fearful of that. And you know what? At that point, if you're not growing, then it may be time to look at outside of your organization, or that may be a good time to go back and advance your education in a different field.
I want to ask the students one more question here, people watching this. What do you want your educational path to be? Like, what is an additional bit of education, learning, leadership development, personal development? What is something that you want to pursue sometime over the next 5 years? Post in the comment section. I'd love to learn. Doesn't necessarily need to be an MBA, doesn't necessarily need to be a doctorate, doesn't necessarily need to be this. It could be I want to go get, PMP certified. I want to go get this certification, or I want to get that certification. I want to be part of an executive mastermind group. I want to, whatever it may be. Put it in the comment section. I'd love to learn, like, what is something that you would like to do to continue and develop yourself over time. Well, Lauren, this has been such a good, I feel like this workshop has flown by. So insightful about just how to advocate for yourself, how to go about determining, how to go about when to pursue additional education. Your story was really, really, really awesome. To close out this workshop, is there any final imparting wisdom that you'd like to share with the students and those that are watching from today's workshop?
One thing that I can say is education is never wasted. And whatever you decide, and like you said, it can be so many different levels. You can do it on your own. It can just be you're learning, observing someone else. You're always learning, right? We're just learners. We like to take in a lot of information. But if you are in a position and you have advanced your education or you plan to advance your education, it's always an investment in yourself. And what I can attest to is it will pay off. And if it's not, the door doesn't automatically spring open for you, it's just, it may just be you're knocking on a different door right now, but it will open. And that's been my experience through all of this. I thought I would be retiring at my former institution, and life had another direction for me, and I couldn't be more excited about it. But my education has gotten me where I am today. And so I would say just stretch yourself, keep an open mind, be transparent, be open to have these crucial conversations, and you will get to your ultimate goals. And sometimes we have to reassess, make some adjustments along the way, and that's called life and experience, and you will get where you're going.
Amazing. Lauren, thanks for sharing that.
Thank you.
Students, thanks
Thank
for
you for
your
having
time
me.
and attention. Have a wonderful rest of your day and your evening, and I look forward to seeing you at our next workshop.